Secretary of State Antony Blinken spent a second day in Israel today. Before leaving, he met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Secretary Blinken's visit to Israel comes as the recent leak of Pentagon documents assessing Israeli preparation to strike Iran has revealed just how in the dark the Biden administration actually is regarding Israel's plans. What did this intelligence leak expose about intelligence gathering from the Biden-Harris administration? And does this leak suggest the U.S. intelligence community is compromised? Joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Mike Waltz. He serves on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He represents the 6th Congressional District of Florida. And he's the author of a new book that just was released yesterday, Hard Truths, Think and Lead Like a Green Beret. He is the only Green Beret to have been elected to the House of Representatives, to the U.S. Congress. Congressman Waltz, welcome to Washington Watch.
Good to be with you as always, Tony.
Congratulations on your new book. It covers themes that we're actually going to focus on in today's program.
Yeah, thank you. And as an aside, no proceeds to me. They'll all go to veterans charities, and including some of the Green Berets that I didn't bring home and their families. And yes, I mean, it's everything from bottoms-up leadership, discipline, resilience, the attributes that we find in a Green Beret that make us unique as we're by ourselves or in small groups in the mountains of Afghanistan or the valleys of Africa. And as we build coalitions of everything from guerrilla warfare fighters to militias to warlords in line with America's interests as warrior diplomats, how do we apply that to life, to business, and dealing with the tribes in the swamp, Tony, which, as you know, can be tougher sometimes than the ones that we find overseas.
Before we move to some of those issues related to the swamp, where can folks get a copy of the book?
Well, you can order it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the major bookstores. It came out yesterday. Make a great Christmas gift. Again, it all goes to charity, but it's what's unique about Green Berets. My Navy SEAL and Ranger brothers and sisters are the best in the world at doing what they did to Osama bin Laden. Other side of the world, take down a bad guy, get in and get out. We tend to stay for a very long time, very small groups, very autonomous. And I talk about everything from having to deal with a 12-year-old boy who the Taliban forced to call in mortar rounds, and my sniper asked permission to take him out. What do you do? To the creation of the Space Force and how Donald Trump was so determined and so prescient, frankly, he fired his own Air Force secretary to get it done. Everyone made fun at the time. But now they see you can't be number one on Earth if you're number two in space. And then the moral compass that you have to have in these situations, and how a sergeant reminded me that as a Christian, you don't use self-discipline just to benefit yourself, as he observed me do, frankly, in Ranger training. You do it to benefit your men and your unit. As a servant leader. So all of those lessons and more are in there that I learned, many hard truths in combat, and hope that people can apply them today.
All right, we encourage you folks get a copy of Hard Truths, Think and Lead Like a Green Beret, which, Mike, you're doing on the Hill as well. I want to talk about one of these aspects. You talk about men and women being out there in the field, putting their lives on the line. When you have critical intelligence leaking from the Pentagon, that puts their lives at risk. It puts the mission at risk. It compromises relationships with our allies. What do we know about this information coming out of the Pentagon related to Israel's preparation for a retaliatory strike against Iran?
Well, not a lot yet, Tony. I mean, but this comes in the context of an administration that has focused its strategy on the Middle East and pressuring our greatest ally, Israel, and really giving our biggest enemy in the region, Iran, a pass, who has suffered no consequences for attacking our soldiers in Iraq, for attacking our ships in the Red Sea. for the horrendous October 7th massacre, for launching ballistic missiles, not once, but twice, directly from its soil. And they have just gotten kind of buy after buy from this administration that I think, if you just take the example of their lead negotiator for the Iran deal, Rob Malley, who was sidelined and had a security clearance stripped for aiding the Iranians. You take it in the context of all of that, I think we have a real infiltration problem. And you hit the nail on the head. Israel shares a lot of intelligence with us that have directly stopped attacks here on the U.S. homeland. We share technology with them, including the Iron Dome technology. And if that trust is broken, then people's lives are absolutely put at risk.
A member of that negotiating team with Rob on the nuclear plan with Iran was Arian Tobai, I believe is her name. She's Iranian. She's, in fact, was at the focus of a letter last year sent by senators, led by Senator Grassley, Wicker, and others, questioning her ability to be at the center of this information. There's some suggestion that she may be a part of this leak. What do we know anything about her status?
In fairness, Tony, I have not seen any information except for some pretty thinly sourced reporting that points to her. Thankfully, she is no longer in the very sensitive position that she was in as the chief of staff of our Special Operations Bureau within the Pentagon. But there are a lot of questions. This was an entire network that Malley was leading called the Iranian Influence Network. And a number of their emails kind of checking in with the Iranian Foreign Ministry, for example, before and after briefings on the on Biden's attempt to get back in the deal, that was all dumped. They were clearly engaging the Iranians in a way that is incredibly inappropriate. Malley's clearance was stripped, but yet we can't get any more information than that. Biden's Department of Justice and FBI puts it in the under investigation bucket.
Mike, you know how difficult this is. If you have a security clearance, and I've had one, you have to report all interactions with foreign officials. How do they get by with this? Because it is very difficult to have a security clearance if it's done the right way.
Well, that's one of the many questions that we have about Tabatabai. How was she able, if you take these emails, which certainly appeared to be credible, reported by Semaphore and Axios, and these contacts, not just with a kind of a family friend, but with Iranian government officials, how are those not reported? And if they were reported, how are they, how is that allowed? And one can only imagine, Tony, if this were Russian contacts by a senior Trump negotiator, the media would have it running 24/7. Yet there's just kind of a shoulder shrug. And oh, by the way, Iran is trying to kill President Trump, their leading political opponent. And we get so much as a strongly worded letter 3 years too late, rather than a very real promise of consequences to reestablish deterrence and knock this kind of behavior off.
We only have about 30 seconds left, Congressman Waltz, but if Israel can't communicate with us, this puts them basically acting alone, which puts them in, quite frankly, a more desperate situation, does it not?
Well, thankfully, yes, Tony, it does. But thankfully, Bibi Netanyahu did not listen to Biden and Harris, because if they had, Hezbollah would still be roaring and attacking. Hamas would be plotting more October 7th. Nasrallah would be alive. Sinwar would be alive. And right now, the Ayatollah is literally in hiding, not because of Biden, but because of Bibi. That's how you reestablish stability and peace.
Well, maybe we can ride their coattails to a greater global stability. Congressman Mike Waltz, thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations on the book.
All right. Thank you. There's a lot of hard truths that I think America needs to hear. I appreciate it.